Today, we're going to answer the question, what is happiness? Modern society has led you and I to believe that happiness is all about seeking pleasure, that it's all about feeling happy all the time. The American dream of the pursuit of happiness is no longer about being content or being at peace. It's shifted into this mentality that even if you are happy, that you're entitled to feel even happier. In the New York Times best-selling book, The Happiness Project, the author Gretchen Rubin embarks on this 12-month project to become even happier than she is. Even though she has a wealthy husband that she loves, she describes her children as being delightful. She's got a mansion, she's got great friends, she went to Yale Law School, and she ultimately personifies the American dream of happiness. To the outside world, she's got it all. But in the book, she says that she's not as happy as she should be, and she feels that something is missing. And this message is obviously resonating with a lot of people. Otherwise, the book wouldn't have reached the New York Times bestseller list. Here's the problem. In Western society, we're attaching happiness to an emotion or a feeling. And as Gretchen describes in her book, she feels that something is missing. She doesn't feel as happy as she should. And we tend to do this a lot in modern society. We either attach happiness to a feeling or we attach happiness to a destination, something along the lines of a career goal in the future or a new car or a house. But these only give us short-term bursts of happiness or feelings of pleasure, and we adapt to these feelings very quickly. So the question at this point really becomes, if these things don't provide us long-lasting happiness, then what really does? And I think we should start answering this question by looking at the definition of long-lasting happiness by the founder of positive psychology and the author of the book Authentic Happiness, Martin Seligman. He defines happiness as the pursuit of your signature strengths every day to produce authentic happiness and abundant gratification. And by authentic happiness, he means raising the bar for yourself, investing in yourself, and not comparing yourself to others. So let's summarize that. Through the use of your signature strengths towards some activity or purpose, and by raising the bar for yourself, you'll produce abundant gratification. Notice how the definition doesn't include the word pleasure or feeling, which is how we would normally associate happiness in Western society. I think it's worth pointing out that over 2,000 years ago, ancient philosophers had a very clear distinction between the word pleasure and happiness, which seems to have been lost in modern society. Pleasure was described as a feeling, whereas happiness was the use of your strengths towards an activity, or in other words, happiness was gratification, which is really similar to Martin Seligman's definition of long-lasting happiness. I think a really great example of this can be found in looking at Michael Phelps. From a really young age, Michael Phelps recalls watching the Olympics on TV and thinking that he wanted to be in the Olympics and he wanted to win a gold medal. He subsequently has won many gold medals, I think 23 to be exact right now, and I think I read in some article the other day that he's won more medals than over 165 countries and combined. And to put that into perspective, there's only 205 countries competing in the Rio Olympics this year. So we look at Michael Phelps, and he's put in so much time and effort into this particular purpose and this particular passion, right? And this really falls in line with Martin Seligman's definition of happiness, right? He has used his signature strengths towards a particular activity, and it produced abundant gratification for him. Now, you probably would not associate Michael Phelps training with pleasure, right? He probably would tell you that all of the training that he goes through every day really sucks, right? He's not really feeling pleasure when he's training for 8 hours a day. Some of you might be thinking that Michael Phelps may not be the greatest example here. I don't know if you've heard some of the news stories about Michael a couple years ago. He got arrested for a DUI. There was a photo floating around the internet of him smoking a bong, or allegedly smoking a bong. And there was a news article that I read a few days ago that talked about how he wanted to commit suicide a couple years ago. And so if we look at his life during that period, I don't think he was in the mindset of going back to the Olympics. I think he was already in the mindset that he, was retired and he was partying all the time. And what was he doing? He was purely seeking pleasure. And I mean, rightly so at the time. He definitely deserved it. But it's interesting how, when someone purely seeks pleasure, and this happens a lot in Hollywood, and people that are really wealthy, they find themselves really, really depressed. And you wonder, how could somebody be so depressed when they have so much and they have achieved so much? And, Michael Phelps is a really great example of that, right? Because he went through that stage of, not really having a purpose anymore, or maybe not feeling like he had a purpose anymore, when he didn't think he was going back to the Rio Olympics, and he thought his Olympic career was over. So, now he really has to get in the mindset of, redefining his purpose, and using his signature strengths towards that to get back on track. But I think it's really a fascinating illustration of, how depression can happen for a lot of people by purely seeking pleasure. Seeking gratification is really difficult. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of thought. I mean, look at Michael Phelps. When he started his career in swimming, when he first got going, all of that required so much thought and effort for him to get that going, and then he got into a routine, but he was focused on a particular passion. And, I think there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of fear associated with pursuing a particular passion or dream, right? Whether that be people making fun of them for following their dreams, or something along those lines. But that fear is really difficult to get over. And we tend to also categorize somebody like Michael Phelps as being just raw talent, right? So we'll look at him on TV at a snapshot in time, because we're really not following the entire progression of his career, and we'll say, man, he's so talented, I would never be able to do something like that. And you might be the type of person that doesn't have the body type, for example, or that particular strength in swimming, but I wouldn't necessarily associate it with purely talent. I don't really like to use that word talent. I think through a relentless amount of effort towards your particular strengths, you can achieve the same thing. So what do we do instead? We seek pleasure, right? Because pleasure is a quick hit. It's a quick emotional state, right? It satisfies a particular urge. You say, I want to feel happy right now. Okay, let's try to tie this all together. We have Aristotle's view of happiness as the pursuit of your signature strengths towards an activity. And we have Martin Seligman essentially voicing the same thing with his definition of happiness. So here's my opinion on all this. I think it's really important to know that happiness is not specifically about seeking pleasure. In fact, purely seeking pleasure, for many people, can tend to actually lead to more depression, which is definitely counterintuitive. But I tried to build the case that long-lasting happiness is more about finding and following your signature strengths to produce gratification. But this really, this leaves out other factors which are just as important, like spending time with family and great friends. And so I took it upon myself to write a new definition of happiness. So happiness is abundance from within that begins with a deep sense of self. It's an understanding and the use of your signature strengths towards a singular passion or purpose. It's a continued focus on learning new things and raising the bar for your mind, and not comparing yourself to others, or not comparing yourself to those around you, believing in yourself and surrounding yourself with great friends and family. Ultimately, happiness is uncovering and acting on the meaning of your life. All right, so that's all I got for you today. I hope you learned a little something about happiness. I definitely had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope you'll subscribe, pass the video along, and I got a lot more great content coming for you, so stay tuned, and thanks so much for watching.